Welcome back to Working Faith, where we take a spiritual approach to career success. I'm your host, Jalen Isley, and I'm excited to have Simon T. Bailey with us today of Simon T. Bailey International. Simon is dedicated to igniting the spark within. As an award-winning keynote speaker, coach, and author, he guides individuals and organizations to harness their strengths, rebound from challenges, and craft lives filled with meaning and impact. Simon, we are so excited to have you here today. Welcome.
It's good to be here.
Absolutely. Well, this show is all about leveraging our spiritual principles to positively impact the workplace and grow our careers. So with that in mind, let's start talking about spiritual principles. Tell us about your faith journey and how that shaped who you are today.
My faith journey started at a church youth camp when I was 12, 13 years of age. I would go every summer, and I eventually realized that I needed to get a relationship and have a relationship with God on my own and not try to ride the coattails of my parents who were Christian individuals. And so I accepted the Lord into my life. And back in the day, this was with the evidence of speaking in tongues because I grew up in a denomination that was very particular about being filled with the Holy Spirit. So it has been a part of my life. And I can say, as the old mothers would say, every day with Jesus is sweeter than the day before. And so I am because he is. And so I am just so grateful to be here and share.
Yeah, I grew up, my grandfather was a pastor. I grew up Kojic, Pentecostal, and speaking in tongues was a regular occurrence from everyone from the age of 2 to 90. It was a common occurrence. And there is something about a prayer language that can really shift not just your perspective, but your experience. And so I sincerely appreciate you bringing that up and helping us understand the different ways that our faith can show up. What are some of the core principles of your faith that resonate most with you?
I think number one, your life might be the only Bible that people read. So how you do business really sets the tone for how people receive you. So for instance, if a meeting starts at 8:15 and you show up at 8 a.m., you are living out the principle that excellence is early. And as people get to know you, they get to know your belief system. They realize that not only is excellence early, but you're operating with a spiritual foundation. I think the second principle is the ability to go above and beyond what you're called to do. A paycheck is given to people who show up, but opportunities are given to people who think and work beyond what they're paid to do. So it's always looking for that opportunity to give a little something extra, not because you're waiting for the pat on the back, a promotion, a pay raise, a bonus. It's because who you are at the core. And that in and of itself, when people begin to see you operate at a deeper level, a level where it's not about what you're getting, but about what you can give, those individuals become your unofficial marketing department, and they begin to advance your name to others because your work speaks for itself. And I think the third thing is to recognize that everyone who comes across your path, be it internal customers, colleagues, team members you work with, or external customers that you're dealing with, how you show up and ask them how they are doing and making it about them, you literally become healing presence in a world where, according to the research from Gallup, 7 out of 10 people are dealing with stress, anxiety, depression. Your healing presence by how you show up, by how you engage, is so significant and so important right now.
Yeah, so I'm hearing a few things as you talk about this. One, that first principle of sometimes you're the only Bible that people will see. That is your ability to practice what you preach. And so many people struggle with just exhibiting or living what they say they believe. Can you talk a little bit more about how someone can strengthen their ability to live out their values?
I think, to use an example, When I worked at Disney, my boss and I, we had a bit of a tough relationship because he was really hard on me. And I had to submit a weekly report giving him what were the specific things accomplished. He would mark it up in red and send it back to me. And I marched into his office one day, closed the door, and it was not a very pixie dusted conversation. You could hear me down the hall. It was not a
Mm,
Christian moment, not a Christian moment that I was proud of. But what I also recognized in that moment, I was in my own way. And sometimes God puts a boss or a leader in your path to help smooth out the rough edges. So,
mm,
what I began to learn is in business, because you spend more time in business than you do with your family or anywhere else, there are going to be specific scenarios and circumstances that come up, things where a meeting is going to go south. How do you keep your cool? How do you practice the 3 second rule? Three, two, one. Something that I do in my own practice. I say under my breath, grace, grace. When I know I'm about to go there and I'm about to literally take people to the room of understanding, I just say grace, grace. And it calms me down so that my reaction is more of how do we move forward instead of I'm angry, I'm emotional, I'm upset, and I just want to blow off some steam, which is not godlike. So, in practicing grace, grace, three, two, one, you take the edge off of what you are about to say and you become more open to what the Holy Spirit can say through you.
yeah, that idea of open to the moment, being open to the moment, being present in the moment, and having the courage to learn something about yourself and about others, it really does set people apart in terms of accelerating their career success. Uh,
Yes.
so no, that is great wisdom being shared there. The second thing that I heard you say about showing up and the commitment to excellence really, to me, reflects the principle of good stewardship. So if you've been given this career opportunity, what are you going to be? What are you going to do with the gift that was given to you? How do you increase that? How do you iterate on that? How do you take what God has put in your hands and then turn that into something more? Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I think everyone listening to us right now, if you work inside a business or perhaps even an entrepreneur, what if you went to your leader and said, what is it that I can take off your plate that would help you be more successful? What would it be like to reach out to a team member and say, hey, is there anything that I can do to assist you? What would it be like to recognize a team member for doing something right? The boss may not see it, but you saw it. Call it out. What would it be like the next collaboration or project that you're working on that you take a moment to recognize everyone in the room, via virtual or in person, about something good that they added to the mix? The power of using your words to encourage others and to build others up literally builds goodwill, that as the positive things that you say are deposited into their emotional bank account, as the interest begins to accrue in that account, you can go and withdraw in the future because you've put something in to their spirit to let them know that they are appreciated, that they are valued, and that they are seen. Those are just some of the micro practices that you can do right now.
Yeah, I think people undervalue or underestimate their ability to be a gift in the workplace. If you're going into the workplace and you're doing your job, great. Okay. I was in HR for many years and I would tell people, listen, I just need you to do your job at this point. All this extraness that's not adding value, I just need you to do your job. But in addition to that, people don't always recognize that they can actually add value in ways that are unexpected, including recognizing their team members or help offering support with someone who's going through a challenging time. So, yeah, that idea of being a gift to your team and adding value in that way is really powerful. So, the last thing I heard you say is asking that person how they are today, taking that moment to invest in their well being. Uh, and to me, that really just speaks to trust in a couple of different ways. One, you've got to trust that you're okay in order to ask someone else if they're okay. To have that capacity, you've really got to invest in trusting in your higher source or your higher power, knowing that your needs are met. so that you can show up for other people. Do you agree or disagree with that? Let me know.
I agree with that totally. So it's practicing self-care for yourself, putting your oxygen mask on first before you do it for others. But when you do it from others, you do it from a place of, I see you, I understand you, and I'm here for you. I'm not here to fix anything. Me asking how you are doing is just literally to hug you with my words. So that's what those three words mean. How are you doing? I'm just hugging you with my words.
Yeah. And I think that's the second level of trust, because once you trust that your needs are taken care of and you can show up for other people, that's building trust between you and that person. And that kind of goes back to your previous point of maybe having to make a withdrawal from that account later on in your career. So,
Yes,
that,
the trust is the emotional glue of all relationships. So when you build trust, little by little, that trust equity increases over time.
I like the idea of that trust equity. Yeah. I think we could all invest a little bit more in building that trust equity with our colleagues. Talk to me about how your spiritual beliefs have influenced your approach to leadership.
So one of the things I fundamentally believe is that the job of a leader is not necessarily to motivate people to work harder. The job of a leader is to invite people on a journey to discover the leader within themselves while they're taking a walk with you. So leadership is caught and taught. The greatest ability of a leader is to understand not telling, but asking, celebrating, not tolerating, and identifying that person's area of brilliance and encouraging them to go further than you have ever gone in your leadership journey. So if leadership is caught and taught, when you truly believe in someone, in their leadership journey, you have a team, you have peer leaders, their leadership shows up every single day. What you really understand is my responsibility as a leader is to come from a place of introducing you to educari. The word education comes from the word educari, which means to draw out. How do I draw out your brilliance? Through appreciative inquiry, asking you questions. How do you see things? What do you think about it? Instead of running an adult daycare center and you have to be beholden to what I say. That's not leadership. That's a person tripping with their ego. So when I
Mm,
truly understand leadership, I can invite you. So prime example. The next time you have a meeting, what if you have one of the team members on the team put together the agenda and lead the meeting? Let them drive the meeting. How do you learn to drive a car? You have to get behind the wheel. You'll never learn to drive the car if the leader or the driver never moves over to the passenger seat and allows you to move over to the driver's seat. It doesn't mean you lose your title or your position. You are comfortable enough in your own skin to help others grow into being the leader.
yeah. So you have had an extensive career, successful career, so many accolades. But at this point in your career, is there anyone in your life inviting you to lead in ways that you have not previously led?
Yes, incidentally, there is. And it's been a growth opportunity for me because it's something that I never saw coming and I'm stepping into it little by little, a bit overwhelmed with it. But what I recognize, it's not so much just about doing the work of leadership, it's about being. And being a leader is understanding the prefix is be. How do I be my most authentic self? Step into this moment to serve as a result of who I will become in the process. So yeah, it's been a great journey.
Interesting. And how do you make that shift from going from doing to being a
Yeah.
leader?
Great question. I think it starts with a simple question of reflection. So I was interviewing the chairman and CEO, former chairman and CEO of Baxter Healthcare, a guy named Harry Kramer. And I said, Harry, in your 40-year career as a leader, chairman, CEO, what is the one thing that you do that you would pass on the leaders? And he said, Simon, for the last 40 years, every night I ask myself three questions. Number one, how did I grow? Number two, how did I make a difference? Number three, how will I add value tomorrow? It's with those self reflection questions that I invite myself every day to think about: how did I grow? How did I make a difference? How do I add value tomorrow? Those are three questions that we can give everyone that's listening to us that will help you in your journey to leading and truly self-reflecting.
I think that the self reflection process is something that is talked about often, and having the courage to do it on a regular basis really does make the difference in terms of not just what other people say about you, but what you say about yourself.
I
And,
agree.
and yeah. So let's talk about ourselves, or yourself rather. Over the past few years, many companies have invested in well-being, especially mental health and things of those engagement and stability and support for their employees. I consider spiritual health to be a core component of someone's well-being. Are there specific practices you use to maintain your spiritual health and well-being?
My spiritual practice starts with the Bible app. I listen to the YouVersion Bible app where there's a particular scripture that I will read every single day. After I get done with reading and listening, there's an app called Hollow. And Hollow obviously is deep in Catholicism, but what I so appreciate about the Hollow app is that you can set it to the time that you want to meditate or pray, and they already have prescribed prayers that you pray along with the Father. Very, very phenomenal. I love Hollow. And I think Mark Wahlberg, the actors behind this particular app. So Hollow is something that I use. But recently I just discovered through podcasting is the Bible Project app. And the Bible Project app has been ranked as one of the number one apps in the world. And what it does, it walks you through the Bible in just 8 minutes every day. And there's a lot of biblical illiteracy around the world. And what the Bible app has really, I think, been charged to do is to close that gap so that individuals who may not be Christians but want to understand the Bible become more literate. So I take time to do that. And then I read a proverb that corresponds to the day of that particular month. And I've been doing that for the last couple of years. And the reason I do that is because I discover something different every single time that I read Proverbs. I also take a moment to meditate. I do deep breathing because I think that's so important. When you inhale for 3 seconds, exhale for 7 seconds, just to set the internal intention for the day. And my spiritual practice takes about an hour to 2 hours every morning, 7 days a week.
Yeah, I there was a time in my life where I didn't think I would have the time to dedicate an hour or two to that spiritual well-being first thing in the morning. Comes to find out, God shifted my life, so I now have plenty of time to do that. And it really is transformational when you add up the amount of time some people spend watching TV or Instagram or whatever it is. You've got time. You've got time to invest in your spiritual well-being. And I like the fact that you are doing that deep breathing every morning, because I feel like when you get into the intentional practice of doing that, when unintended situations pop up with your manager or whoever, you've already got that practice built in you. And it's a lot easier to say grace, grace, and take those 3 seconds before you respond to a situation. What do you think? Does that make
Absolutely spot on. Everything is in the breath because it's in between the breaths that you take where you are releasing whatever you have suppressed and you are inviting in what is to be. And how you start the day determines the day. So never forget to breathe.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you do um, adhere to the Christian faith or any of the Abrahamic faiths, you understand that everything started with breath. Like God breathed life into this world. And so when you consider the fact that God started with the breath, how much more important is it then for us to understand and be connected to our breathing on a regular basis and recognize the power that lies in that breath? So
Yes.
definitely. Okay, well, great. Well, you shared a lot today. I'm so grateful for all of the nuggets of wisdom that you shared. What would you say, if anything, would be a practice that you could share with our audience on how they could take a spiritual approach to leadership as they prepare for the next work week?
Get a journal and begin to write down what went well in the previous week and what is your intention for the upcoming week. When you begin to write it down, writing is therapeutic. And I think a part of writing and journaling is setting that intention so that your head, your heart, your hands are in full alignment in the difference that you can make as a leader. So, what are those intentions that you're setting? Saying hello, connecting with team members, giving feedback early and often, but also just celebrating what people are doing right. I think so many people are struggling right now at some level. They have the mask on. If you ask them how they're doing, they'll say fine. But you as a leader can break through by just recognizing them. So set that intention at the beginning of the week and certainly at the end of the week. What went well? So you continue to build that positive momentum, and your positive actions will compound over time because of your commitment to the intentionality.
Hmm. Yeah. That celebration is not only does it lighten the heart, but it also shifts the energy in the room. When you go into an environment where you feel celebrated and you feel comfortable celebrating others, you can't help but to have a better dynamic and then ultimately better results in how you show up. So, yeah, that's great. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us today. It has been a pleasure learning from you. How can the audience stay connected with you and stay up to date on what you're doing?
SimonTBailey.com. T for terrific. Just kidding. SimonTBailey.com. It was right there. It was low hanging fruit.
It was. You have to take a low hanging fruit. You got to do it. Okay, definitely. And then you just released a new book, correct?
Yes, the book is called Resilience at Work, and you can get it on Amazon or SimonTBailey.com.
Excellent, excellent. All right. Well, thank you all so much for listening to Working Faith. All the show notes and information about our guest, Simon T. for Terrific Bailey, can be found on the website workingfaith.com. Remember to subscribe, rate, and share this show with others. I'd love to hear your comments. You can always interact directly with me on the Working Faith page at linkedin.com. Thanks again for listening. We'll be back next week with more tips on how you can take a spiritual approach to your career success and work your faith. Good day.